Welcome back. This is Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos, and today we're going to be doing these spooky sunsets. I know it's still July, but it's always good to get kind of a head start on your holiday products. As usual, I'll make sure to put everything that I used today down in the description box below so that way you guys can shop those items if you would like to. And if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more products, vlogs, all kinds of stuff I have coming your way. So let's wake up, prep those tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. So today I'm going to be using two 15-ounce wine glasses that I purchased through the Stainless Depot company, but you guys can obviously use any size tumbler you already have on hand. Now I am going to be doing two different types of wine glasses, but I prep them both the same way, which I'll show you the other one after I'm done with this one, of course. I just painted the base black, and then I just did a white stripe around the middle. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be putting our glitters over it. This is just to help out with any bare spots that might be visible once we apply our glitter. The glitters I'm going to be using today are Black Diamond, Vinca, and Lime for this first one, and with a little dashing of Cosmos. And you can find those at my glitter shop, socglitters.com. But of course, you can use any type of glitters you already have on hand to be able to do this project. Now, I am applying my glitter with the epoxy method. It's my preferred way. If I can do it, I'm going to do it this way. I just really like how the glitters lay on the tumbler once I am done. You just want enough epoxy to be able to push around your tumbler, whatever size tumbler you're using, and so that way there's no bare spots, so that way your glitter will stick. Now I'm going to take my Black Diamond. I'm just going to go right along the bottom of my tumbler there, just making sure it's nice and covered. Now, I use Black Diamond for a lot of different things, especially my sunsets. I have a normal beach sunset that I do, and I just really like the way it looks. I like the little specks of holographic that kind of come up onto the tumbler. I just really enjoy using it for these kinds of things. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to my lime. And again, I'm just going to load that up right in the white area. That's the reason why we left it white, because this is a neon green. And I'm actually going to leave a little stripe of white around the top so that way I can kind of make an ombre effect with my Vinca. And you're probably wondering, why is this lady adding green? I don't understand. Well, once you add it to the tumbler, this color actually turns a purple color on a black base. So when it's on white, it's like this olive green color, so it makes a good ombre into my lime, and then once it hits that black, it turns a very pretty purple. Now, I didn't completely load up my Vinca on the top because I like to come through and add some stars around on my sunsets. That's how I've always done it, and I actually really like this Cosmos. I thought it went really well, so I'm not really getting too big of the chunks. I just want the little stuff, so I just kind of dip my finger in there and sprinkle all the little stars and all the little tiny bits of glitter on the top, just giving it just something a little extra. Then once I am done adding all my little stars at the top, I'm going to come back through and I'm going to go ahead and load up my lime, and I'm going to load up my Vinca really good. We don't need to touch the Black Diamond. That's already really good on there. So we just want to come through and really load up our fine glitters. Then I'm going to let that stand up and cure for about 6 hours before I add a coat of epoxy over my raw glitter. Now, as you guys seen earlier, I did do two types of tumblers. So it's basically the same exact concept, except the top is a little bit different. I used a full-on chunky on the top. So I'm just going to show you guys how I did that. Now, I did the same thing where I painted the bottom black, white in the middle, but I did a little bit of navy around the top since there's a lot of navy in that Cosmos mix. And again, I'm going to apply my glitter with the epoxy method. And I really like to use Alumilite's amazing clear cast line. I like to use their quick coat epoxy for these things, so that way it cures just a little bit faster. But you guys can use any type of epoxy you already have on hand. So the only difference, like I said, is this Cosmos at the top. And I'm going to be using Orchid as well to kind of mix in with it, because sometimes those chunkies don't have enough fines in them. So that's why I'm using my Orchid as well. So I went ahead and did the base in the same manner where I did my Black Diamond, then my lime, and now I'm just going to come back through with my Orchid and kind of do a stripe. Then I'm going to come through with my chunky glitter, and I'm just really going to load that up. Now, after I am done adding my chunky glitters here, I'm going to come back through and I'm going to add just a little bit more orchid around it, just making sure it kind of blends really well together. Then I'm going to take my gloved hand and I'm going to pat my glitters down so that way they're nice and flat for this next round of adding epoxy over the raw glitter. I'm also going to take my thumb and kind of run it around the rim so that way any chunkies that are sticking off the edge of the tumbler around the lip there, I can push them right back down so that way I don't have to trim anything up too much. And just like our first tumbler, we're just going to let that cure for about 6 hours. Then I'm going to apply another coat of epoxy right over our raw glitter. And as always, I'm going to make sure that I hit that up really good with my torch once I put that epoxy over the raw glitter, because that's where all those micro bubbles tend to pop up as they get stuck under the raw glitter, and you'll have little micro bubbles, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit it up really good with my torch over my epoxy here, and then I'm going to let this continue to cure overnight, and then we'll be ready to move on to that next step. It is the next morning after my epoxy was applied there, and it is ready to have its cool little decals applied. Now, I found this image on Etsy. Again, I'll make sure to put it down in the description box below so that you guys can find it if you want to. I printed those out on clear water slide paper, and how I got them to fill up my page like this was I just flipped my image and I attached them together so that way I could fill up a page completely instead of having to do a bunch of separate pages. So that's pretty easy little tip that you can do if you want to make sure you fill your page with something. Just attach everything together and get it as big as possible. Now I'm going to show you guys here in a minute. Like I said, I did make that image as big as possible, but it's still not going to fit completely around my wine tumbler, but that's okay because you just take an extra little piece, which I'll show you guys how to do, and just fill in where it didn't fit. Now, as you guys can see, I kind of trimmed out a little bit because we didn't need all that extra space in between, and I was just trying to make it as easy as possible to be able to form around my tumbler. To me, it really reminded me of when you do Easter eggs and you're trying to get that little plastic wrap around the bottom. It kind of reminded me of that. That's the shape of this tumbler. So. But that's the reason why I wanted to use water slide versus vinyl, because I just felt like it could wrap better than vinyl. So that you can use vinyl if you'd like to, completely up to you. So I'm going to take my image, I'm just going to slide it down as far as I can off of my paper after I soak it into my water. Then I'm just going to place it onto my tumbler and I'm going to slide that backing off, and then I'm just going to make sure that everything is all lined up and smooth it out really good. Now, like I said earlier, if you just want to come through and do the trees in vinyl, almost like how I would do my beach sunsets or I would do my Northern Lights tumbler, you can do it in that fashion as well. It is completely up to you guys. There is no right or wrong when it comes to making art. But if you are doing it in this manner, this is probably the hardest part. You know, it's a little bit tricky trying to get these water slides all lined up and smoothed out, but it really isn't that bad, and I know you guys got this. But I start at the bottom and I just make sure that the bottom is completely formed. Then I come through and I just press all that water out from underneath my decal. Now here, as you can see, it didn't fit all the way around, so I just took a little piece I made up extra, and I'm just going to slide that right onto the tumbler, and you will never even notice that it didn't fit completely around. Not a big deal. And just like the rest of it, I'm going to come through and I like to kind of smooth it out with my fingers first. I don't know. That's just me. I feel like it works the best. I'm going to smooth it out with my fingers first along the bottom. Then I'm going to come back through and make sure and just kind of pull everything at the top. That's what I like to do. I kind of pull and push and make sure all those ripples come out. And then I just come through with my towel and just press down, and it really helps out getting any extra water out from underneath your decals. And then once I am done fussing around with my first tumbler there, I'm going to go ahead and come through and do my second tumbler as well, doing it the same exact way. Just making sure that all that water is completely pushed out from under those decals, because if you don't get all the water out from underneath, you run the chance of it leaving little white bubbles under your decal, and we don't want that. So make sure that everything is nice and smooth and dry. And just like my first one, there's a little bit of a gap on the back, so I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to cut out a piece of my decal just to make sure that I can fill it in. I'm going to place it, I'm going to press all the water out, then I'm going to let these dry for about an hour. I just kind of put them off to the side. You can let them dry for about 30 minutes, an hour, however long you guys want to let them dry. You just want to make sure they're nice and dry before we move on to this next step. All right, my decals are nice and dry, and we're ready to move on to adding our spooky fog around the base of the tumbler here. So in this part, you want to make sure that you add a decent amount of epoxy. You want to make sure that you add enough epoxy so that way when you go to add your fog, it's able to kind of move around and shift and do its thing on the tumbler. Because if you don't add enough epoxy, it will just sit still, and you might have where it just looks like a line and not all smudged and melted together like we want it to. So make sure you guys add plenty of epoxy onto your tumblers. I put those out on my turner, and I'm going to take a little bit of this epoxy that I have left over. I don't need all of it. I'm going to use the other stuff for something else I got going. I'm going to take a little bit of that epoxy. I'm going to mix in this Micropearl powder. I really like the way this looks. I feel like it really added that touch of looking like spooky fog with a little bit of pearl in it. And I just got that at Hobby Lobby. So I'm just going to take my stick, I'm going to stir it up into my epoxy really good, and they'll be ready to move on to adding our fog. Now this is very comparable to how I do my beach tumblers. It's very comparable. I'm just going side to side motions with my stick. I want to go along the bottom and a little bit into the tree line. I didn't want too much in the middle. You can do a little bit. I mean, it doesn't matter. However you guys want to do this is completely up to you. Wherever your imagination takes you. These are supposed to be whimsical. These are supposed to be fun. It's that time of year. So just really let your imagination loose and figure out how you want to add your fog. Now, after I came through and put dabs of this stuff all over my tumbler, I would just come through with my stick and kind of drag everything out, just keeping sure that I keep it just side to side, no up and down motions or anything. You want it just all kind of flow together in one direction. All while keeping in mind how fog looks. It looks kind of liquid in the air, so I was just coming through with the flat end of my stick and just kind of swirling it down a little bit, maybe even making a little bit of swirl motions in it to kind of give it a little extra look. But this is the easiest and funnest part because this is very abstract. It doesn't matter how you put it on there. It's all going to look the same in the end, and it's going to be completely amazing. And I absolutely know you guys got this. I'm not going to apply heat or anything to this. That's it. That's all you want to do. And then you're just going to walk away. You're going to let it do its thing. That's it. Now, after this has cured, you can apply your personalization to it, any type of spooky quotes or anything like that. Go ahead and add it to that layer. You want to finish it up with 2 last coats of epoxy, and they are good to go. Whether you take these designs and duplicate them as is, or you take them and let them inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys had a lot of fun watching this tutorial today. Again, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.